everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Thank you. We're in a new conference room and learning some of the IT here, so I think we're good. So the camera kind of zooms in on folks that speak. So, anyways, moving on to item 1 here, or call to order. So today is Friday, May 22nd, 2026. The time is 9:02 a.m. And this is the Endangered Species Recovery Committee public meeting, which we are calling to order now. My name is Jason Omick. I'm a statewide wildlife manager with the Department of Land and Natural Resources, Division of Forestry and Wildlife. I'll be today's ESRC public meeting chair. Before we get started, just a couple of reminders. Please note that this meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. Please do not use the chat feature on Zoom, as this is not visible to everyone in attendance today. If you'd like to provide verbal testimony, you may do so via Zoom. If you'd like to provide written comments, please email the following email address, which is DOFAW, DOFAW.HCP@hawaii.gov. Meeting minutes and materials are viewable online at the ESRC Meetings Archive website. The request of the ESRC members and DOFAW items will start with a presentation from DOFAW staff and followed by a presentation from the licensee. We will open the floor to the ESRC and public discussion and comments thereafter. With me in the conference room today, I have our DOFAW HCP staff, and they're going to introduce themselves now.
Aloha kako, Jesse Adams, DOFAW HCP staff.
Aloha kako, Ojimana Ko'ino, HCP.
Well, also today we will have State Deputy AG Danica Patel. She'll be here today for council if we need. She's going to be here in just a little, maybe around 9:20, 9:30. So we'll let you know when she arrives. We'll go ahead and introduce committee members. So please introduce yourself and state if anyone is present in the room with you. And please remember to leave your cameras on during ESRC discussion. And we can start with Lisa.
Aloha, I'm Lisa Spain. I'm an ESRC member at large, and I'm on Hawaii Island and no one is in the room with me. I do have to leave the meeting today at approximately 10 o'clock and we'll be back at around 11:30.
Great, thank you for that notice, Lisa. Next we have Jenny Kim.
Aloha, I'm Jenny Kim representing Fish and Wildlife Service from Michelle Bogardis. Chelsea Javar Salas and I will be alternating, and only one of us will be voting for any agenda items today. And nobody is in the room with me.
Thank you, Jenny. I guess we'll introduce your partner that's here with you today.
She's not on. She will jump on when it is. I'm sitting in for the Hōkūala portion as well as item 6. I'm not sure if that's going to be today or not. I had some confusion with the website and the actual agenda that's linked to the website. So she will ping me if I need to jump back on later today. But after agenda item 1, I will jump off and she will jump on.
No problem. Yeah, we'll be going through all the items today that are on the agenda 1 through 7.
Okay.
Next we have Karen.
Morning, Karen Corto representing SGS, and there's no one in the room with me.
Thank you, Karen. All right, we will move forward with the order of business today. We have 7 items on today's.
Jason, do you need me to introduce myself?
I'm sorry, Melissa. I didn't.
No problem. Just making sure I check all the boxes. I'm Melissa Price. I'm sitting in the UHC, and there's no one here with me today.
I am just recording that you're here. I am sorry about that. All right, I think I got everybody. I'm just gonna double. All right, order of business. We have 7 items on today's agenda. For items 2 through 5, staff will provide DOFAW updates on each SHA. Following the staff presentation, a representative from each program will present on their compliance for fiscal year 2025. Representatives will keep their presentations to 20 minutes if possible. Following each presentation, we'll open the floor for public and ESRC discussion and comments. Item 7 will be adjournment. And I'm sorry here, I just had one little mistake in my order of business. So we have 7 items on the agenda today. 1 through 6 are projects and 7 is adjournment, just to be clear. And we'll move on to item 2, which is the status of Hōkūala Habitat Conservation Plan. And start with HCP staff presentation at this time.
Good morning, ESRC members. Thank you for joining us for a second day of review. Jenny, some of the confusion on the website might be we only did submittals for a few of the SHAs, and we only posted some of them.
I see that. Thanks.
So today we have non-wind projects. I'm going to start off with Hōkūala. So we'll start off with reviewing their take table that is on the right-hand side of the screen. And this project has both non-lethal and lethal take. And the third column is their total authorized take. The last column is their total take to date. I'll let you folks look at that for a bit. The main takeaways from this table are they've exceeded their lethal take for Haleakalā. Their allotted authorized take of 40 individuals. They've had a total take of 44.75. Also for Nēnē, if you look, they have a total take of 13 to date, and they have an authorized take of 17. This HCP is approaching halfway through its term. So we'll start off with mitigation and habitat management. Mitigation efforts for this HCP include maintaining approximately 35 acres of lagoon habitat for endangered waterbirds. They do intensive predator control targeting cats, chickens, pigs, mongoose, and bullfrogs. And then they have a continual annual funding for seabird mitigation. Biological monitoring successfully documented the successful reproduction of several species to include 82 juvenile Nēnē produced from 34 nests, 18 juvenile Alaula, and 56 Hawaiian duck planes. Like many golf courses, it's important to note with this HCP that they're both a bit of a source and a sink. Moving on to DOFA concerns and recommendations, we've identified 2 primary concerns. These are the exceedance of permitted Alaula take and aerial Nēnē take limits. The licensee is currently working on an amendment to amend their ITL. Additionally, this property is in very close proximity bordering the airport, so there is continued aircraft strike risk associated with large Nēnē population on the property. Recommendations from DOFA to Hōkūala. We want the continued implementation of ESRC recommendations from previous years, strengthened mitigation measures in the upcoming HCP amendment, and then continued predator control and wildlife management efforts, and working collaboratively with agency partners to reduce new take near the airport. Presence near the airport. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Colleen, who's representing the licensee today. Colleen, take it away.
Thanks, Jesse. Okay, I will share my screen. Oh, it looks like I need to request to share my screen. Let's see. Okay. Can you guys see that? Okay. Is the slideshow, can you see just the slide or the presenter view?
Person in the presenter view.
Presenter view, okay. Let's see how to... Is that better? Can you see just the slide or still there's the presenter view?
Presenter view. I think when you share
Okay.
screen, if you share screen 2 instead of screen 1 or screen 1 instead of screen 2, that might help.
Okay, I will try that.
So to do that, I think you would stop share screen,
Oh,
and then
stop
when
there,
you
so-
share the screen, select screen 2. Sometimes that'll solve it.
Okay, sorry for the technical difficulties.
No problem. I run my department seminar, and this is a common challenge.
Ah, yes. Okay, let's see. Is that better? Can you see
Yep,
just the slide? Okay, awesome. Okay, so like Jesse said, I am here on behalf of Hōkūala to present on their HCP, which is located in Lihue, Kauaʻi. And so I'm presenting on the fiscal year 2025 data, which is this past, there's a typo in this, but it should say July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. So just a little bit of history about the Hōkūala HCP permit. We're currently in the 14th year of implementation. So like Jesse said, we're just about halfway through the 30-year term. So the license was first issued by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and DOFAW in 2012, when it was approved as an HCP for the Kauaʻi Lagoons property. One thing to note is that the state ITL was issued 7 months before the federal ITP for this property, and it was issued for a 30-year term. And then in 2016, both the ITL and the ITP were transferred to the Tower Kauaʻi Lagoons property, which was subsequently renamed Hōkūala. So that's where we are today. So an overview about the HCP and what it covers for the property. Essentially, populations of covered species continue to increase under the HCP, which is based on Nēnē nesting observations as well as on waterbird and shorebird surveys. Hōkūala is adaptively managing sources of mortality and continuing to minimize incidental take to the maximum extent practicable in the face of increasing numbers of individuals of covered species. So I'll go over some more data for that in a minute. And like Jesse said, as we've exceeded or are close to exceeding the number of take for Nēnē and common gallinule, Hōkūala intends to seek an HCP amendment this year in order to obtain additional incidental take authorizations for those species. So our first set of data here is for the Nēnē nesting observations that occurred in fiscal year 2025. So 34 nests from 33 different pairs were observed from the Nēnē. The first nest being observed on November 4th, and the last new nest observed on January 26th. So this table here shows some data for the number of eggs laid, hatched, and then gosling survival rate through fledging rate. So there were a total of 115 eggs laid, of which 104 hatched. And then of the eggs that hatched, there were 82 goslings that survived. So that comes out to a hatch rate of 90.4%. A hatchling survival rate of 80.8%, and an eggs fledged rate of 73%. So all of these numbers have increased from the last fiscal year, which likely reflects increased efforts to prevent predation from cats and rats on the property. So in fiscal year 2024, the number of eggs laid increased from 84 to 115. The hatchling survival rate increased from 67 to about 81. And the eggs fledged rate increased from 60 to 73. So we're seeing more Nēnē survival as well as more Nēnē gosling production. So moving on to waterbird and shorebird counts and nesting data for this past fiscal year. The HCP requirement 4.5.4 states that weekly waterbird and shorebird surveys should be conducted between September and March, and that monthly surveys should be conducted from April through August. So Hōkūala actually exceeds this requirement by conducting surveys bi-weekly. And this table shows the data that is collected from those surveys. So there's an overview of all the different species, the average number of each species that's seen per day, as well as the maximum number and the minimum number. For the nest counts and juveniles, Nēnē nests are counted, found and counted because they tend to be pretty easy to find and count. But for waterbird and shorebird nests, typically just waterbird nests, the families and juveniles are counted to obtain these numbers. So since the inception of the HCP, the number of Hawaiian waterbirds has also been increasing in addition to the number of Nēnē, although these numbers are quite variable each year. So example, for last year, there were over 5 times as many coots on the property, but this year there were far fewer nests that were found. So only 1 nest was found this year that produced only 2 juveniles for the Hawaiian coots. Compared to last year, there were 27 nests found that produced 51 juveniles. So the reduction in coot nesting activity may lead to fewer coots on the property in subsequent years. So just an overview of all this data is essentially between 200 and 500 endangered species are seen on the property each day, which is a ton. So this graph is showing the number of waterbird juveniles produced at Hōkūala since 2018. So you can see how these numbers vary per year. Like in 2021, there was a huge number of gallinule nests and juveniles that were produced. We've only seen 1 blackneck stilt nest produce juveniles back in 2018. This past year in 2025, there was a big increase in Nēnē juveniles that were produced. So it really varies over a yearly basis. And also, like I said, the juvenile waterbird production is based on families and families that are counted rather than actual nests and eggs, with the exception of the Nēnē. So this table is showing the number of incidental take that are authorized for Hōkūala through their HCP. So I'm sure you guys may be familiar with these numbers. Like Jesse said, we have both lethal and non-lethal take for the gallinule and the coot. For the remainder of the species, it's all lethal take. And then here is an overview of the incidental take that has occurred from the permit inception through the end of this past fiscal year. So important things to note here is that the Nēnē is almost reached its authorized take limit of 17. We've had a total of 16 since 2012. The gallinule take has exceeded the lethal take that is authorized with 45.75. And then the rest of the species are looking pretty good in terms of their incidental takes. There are so many Nēnē and gallinule and coot on property that I think these numbers have something to do with the increased numbers of species that have been produced on the property over the years. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. So moving on to mitigation efforts, this graph is showing the Nēnē hazing activity that has been occurring as a result of the U.S. Department of Agriculture Wildlife Services hazing on the property. Which started in June 2019 and has continued to the present. So the USDA hazes Nēnē 7 days a week from 5 in the morning to 10:30 at night. So it's really an all-day effort. And this graph sort of shows the peaks and dips that correlate to the Nēnē nesting season, because the Nēnē aren't supposed to be hazed while they're gravid, essentially, or where they have nests. So the hazing efforts really try to take that into account by hazing outside of the nesting season. So those are those large peaks that you see. And then during the nesting season, it drops because we don't want to haze gravid birds. So some more mitigation efforts in terms of trapping and predator control. So the rodent control is provided by Mokihana Pest Control, and poison bait stations, are deployed primarily on the lagoon islands where rodent activity is apparent. The biologists on site also survey the property multiple times a day, and tasks include looking for predators. All staff on the property also report the presence of predators to the biologists, who then respond immediately with a directed trapping effort. So in an effort to maintain a cat-free environment, as I know this was a topic of concern in previous ESRC meetings, all cat sightings continue to be reported, and all cats that are observed are either trapped, taken to the Kauaʻi Humane Society, or rehomed by employees. So they've really been trying to be proactive about the cat population on the property. So I know bullfrogs has also been a concern with predation. So 3 bullfrog traps and 2 bullfrog tadpole traps were deployed on the property in this past fiscal year, which had really great success. So these traps were deployed for a total of 122 days and nights. And they trapped 186 tadpoles, 29 adults, and then there's also the biologist will use pellet guns to shoot the bullfrogs as well. So 11 were shot with pellet guns. So they had over 150% efficacy rate for those traps, which is awesome. So more mitigation efforts here for training, monitoring, and signs on the property. So for training, there are comprehensive programs that ensure that every person working at Hōkūala, regardless of their job, company, or position, undergoes endangered species awareness training each year. So this past year, 212 people were trained, and as a result of these training efforts, there's a really good culture among the staff for the conservation and the awareness of these endangered birds on the property. So everyone has a really high baseline knowledge of the endangered species. So everyone is really helping out for reporting down seabirds or incidents or nests. Pretty much whatever they see instantly gets reported. And we see that in the really good reporting for the incidents that occur on the property. So for the construction and monitoring, all active construction sites on the property are monitored by Hōkūala biologists. And this past year, no Nēnē or Hawaiian waterbird nests or birds were found in the construction sites. There are 38 caution and educational signs that are erected throughout the property, as well as 5 speed bumps and a speed limit of 14 miles per hour. So we really try to prevent bird vehicle strikes in this way by erecting signs that caution people to drive slowly, as well as having the speed bumps and the really slow speed limit. For golf carts specifically, they have PACE technology, which is intended to avoid interactions with endangered species. So it slows the carts in areas of known endangered species presence, and it also prevents the carts from entering areas of nests. And then for the tours, the Hōkūala biologists led over 139 bird and nature tours for 640 guests and local residents this past year. So really trying to foster an awareness of the importance of these birds, both on the property and overall. So for some adaptive management that has been occurring this past fiscal year, a few minimization measures focused on signage to prevent vehicle mortality and seabird disturbance. So some new signs that look like the picture in the upper right that say slow down, wildlife crossing, were recently established on lagoon access pathways for the golf carts. And the biological monitors observe activity in this area and determine compliance with these signs multiple times a day. And then in November of 2024, a team from the Kauaʻi Endangered Seabird Recovery Project surveyed an area of the coastline along the hole number 16 fairway on the golf course. And the team found about 180 wedge-tailed shearwater burrows, which were located in about 2 clusters. So we don't have a ton of wedge-tailed shearwater like incidents, but when they do, they tend to just be down seabirds. But as a proactive measure, the biologists erected these 2 wedge-tailed shearwater signs that are placed along the fairway at the location of these colonies to allow people to just to be cautious of the nesting in the area. And then finally, going into some next steps for Hōkūala. Like Jesse said, they have, this is first item is a finalizing of a memorandum of agreement with Save Our Shearwaters program to better facilitate the transfer and care of birds from Hōkūala. So that's been really important for this past year or so since that has happened. SOS has been really helpful in providing care for injured birds, and they're always really good about pickup and communications with us. We also plan to have more frequent check-ins with the resource agencies. Hōkūala biologists will also record specific data for construction monitoring once active construction resumes on the property. The Hōkūala security team and biologists will participate in Seabird searcher efficiency training by KSHCP, and we'll have another lighting audit conducted prior to the 2026 Seabird fallout season. Hōkūala will also apply for a permit to remove western cattle egret and implement this measure when and where appropriate for the roosting habitats specifically, and also explore better habitat management options for those roosting areas. Hōkūala is preparing an HCP amendment this year to request amendments for the permits for Nēnē and common gallinule take. So working draft is in progress for that. And then finally, DOFAW's efforts to translocate Nēnē from Hōkūala to Molokaʻi will continue, and the most recent capture event occurred this past February. Also important to note that Hōkūala is also open to ideas and suggestions on how to move birds away from the 18th hole fairway, since that remains an area of high waterbird presence where there is a threat of golf ball strikes. So with that, I believe that is it from me. And now open to questions.
Thank you very much for that. We'll go ahead and open up for ESRC discussion at this time. If there's any comments from folks?
I was going to ask for the cattle egret. Are you guys seeing cattle egret predation at the nests? Is it a permit
yeah.
to remove it?
Yeah. So predation, I don't believe has ever been observed directly. I know there is an area of cattle egret roosting, which is sort of near areas where waterbird presence is frequently observed. I don't believe there's ever been actual predation directly observed, but I think it's suspected that it may be a contributing factor.
Yeah, I would just note that they're a known predator of chicks, and so if they're a designated pest species, if there's possibility of doing a removal, that's something that's pretty commonly done in wetlands to benefit waterbirds.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely something that they're looking into.
I just want to note, it's always a pleasure to see places where native species are thriving, even if that's not the intention or original intention of the space. And so the fact that there are so many waterbirds there, I know that it creates this opportunity for conflict and for mortalities to occur. But something that we've noted across other spaces is that when species are doing well and starting to recover and the populations are growing, you're going to see higher mortality because there's more opportunity for interaction. And so with an appropriate level of protection that's reasonable, some of that, back and forth is going to occur. So it's exciting to see so many nests and so many birds and all of that. Yeah, so just want to note that.
Yeah, thank you. I know that's been a topic of discussion recently too, with the increased numbers of takes, but there's also a really great increasing number of birds too, which I think is a good thing overall.
What is the primary take source for the coot?
I believe that tends to be the golf ball strikes on the 18th fairway because there's a lot of coots that tend to be in that area. I think it varies, but I believe coots are one of the more frequent species that we see that are victims of those golf ball strikes because they do like that area so much.
Can I ask a question? Do you have a slide that shows the take for this year and or the cumulative take? I think it would be helpful for us to understand, like, yeah, what is the take? How did it happen? Like, is it golf balls? Is it predation? Is it cars? I think that's also super helpful for us to understand a little more clearly. Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't have that slide in this presentation, but we do have that in our annual report, which I believe is posted or published somewhere. I think it's on the DLNR HCP website. I think it should be somewhere. So if you are interested in that data, it's definitely available. And I'm happy to also share that with you individually.
Yeah, I mean, I can dig it up in the report. If just tell me what figure number and what page. But I just think in discussion wise, it's helpful for us to be able to talk about that in these meetings, just to think about it. And I know the challenge with this project has also been the hazing with the Nēnē, and it's kind of this circular thing. So I think from the agency side, it'd be also good for us to understand the bigger strategic picture with what's happening with Nēnē on the island of Kauaʻi and in this area, because it's challenging for us to see and know that you're coming close to your take, but it's also a part of this bigger picture of the hazing and the airport situation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can definitely share that with you. I don't have the annual report open right now, but I will get that information either now or just after this. Yeah.
Lisa, I think there's also reports, separate reports for just the hazing and what's going on with that whole project. So I think it would be good. And I haven't read one of those reports in a little while back. I don't know, I don't think Brian Walsh is doing this anymore, but when he started that a long time ago. But yeah, it'd be good to know, like, the Nēnē that are being hazed. Are some of them coming back? Where are they being hazed to? Or is it creating another problem somewhere else? Things like that. And I know some of the birds are banded, so you can kind of look at some of this information, but having some of that report, I think, would be really helpful for folks when we're at a meeting like this talking about some of these things.
Yeah, and I think just to put a fine point on what Lisa asked for, I think what we're asking for, Colleen, is that in the annual presentations, if you can include that as a slide in your presentation. So just for DOFA's sake, I know we're creating a recommendation slide, if you can add that to it, just in future presentations, because yes, we can look all that up, but it's helpful for both the public and the committee to have it as part of the presentation for discussion. So just to put a really fine point on that. Thank you, Lisa, for raising that.
For sure. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah, and I guess, oh, sorry, just one more thing in that vein is, you have this really good program with education, and I know you have signage, but if lots of birds are getting killed by golf balls and golfers, what is the education front there? How many golfers are going through the course? How many, that kind of thing too, because if that's a huge part of the take, then there needs to be some other management or adaptive management associated with the golf course.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know the extent of the training that the golfers undergo, if there is any. But that is definitely a good point to bring awareness to the golfers so that they, are, like I said, aware of the presence and the protected nature of these water birds so they could try to avoid them if possible, for sure.
I would assume too, and not to go too into the weeds here, but I mean, I'm not a golfer. I've golfed occasionally. And if you're hitting a golf ball and it's on the 18th fairway and it's the ones that have enough force to actually injure or kill a bird are coming from a long ways away, I would assume. And you can't see that exact spot where it's landing in theory to be able to avoid hitting them. So it's almost like we wouldn't, kind of like when we're thinking about the wind turbines and the blade coming along, like it's going the pathway of the blade, like this going the pathway of the ball. The birds just happen to be in the spot where the ball is going to hit. So I don't know to what degree education is going to change that. It's not like in some places where, a military practice shooting range is right below a bird colony, which we have in some places around the island. And the guys get in trouble, the people get in trouble if they shoot a bird because you'd have to aim differently to hit a bird than to hit the target, right? But in this case, they're aiming for the hole.
Yeah.
The bird happens to be in the way of the hole, I assume is what's happening. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's just because
Yeah.
that area is so populated with birds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens that sometimes a bird gets hit, not intentionally. And like you said, I don't know if it's possible to avoid that from happening from so far away. So yeah, I think that's why Hōkūala is really open to ideas of how to minimize the presence of birds in that area, because they can get the birds out of there. The golfers are happier, the birds are happier, and less
Yeah, no one wants to
occurred. So
most people.
yeah.
So maybe what would be helpful along the lines of what Lisa was asking for with that table of kind of the cause of death for the different things is when you're showing that table to us, if you can have some sort of analysis of here's the proportion that we think we can get down in future years through X, Y, and Z actions. Here's the proportion we don't think we can reduce in the future because there's just going to be some degree of a bird is in the way of the golf ball and the golf ball is going where the golf ball goes, right? And so that's why the HCP exists, is because there's unavoidable take, right? So if you can do some of that kind of analysis for us in future years, I think that'll address what Lisa is bringing up here and would be helpful for all of us.
I do to note that it's not a story from Kauaʻi, but there has been a golfer that angrily killed a nēnē associated with a ball on Hawaii Island. So golfer education as well, I think is good, regardless of whether, the ball hits them by accident, or even considering, some sort of course hole redesign that could help with avoidance.
Yeah, Colleen, I was gonna share one thing. I was on a Turtle Bay not too long ago doing some waterbird surveys, and their golf cart actually slows down in certain spots where there's species presence, waterbird species presence and albatross and stuff like that. And so I don't know if you've gotten in one of the golf carts and drove around, but maybe when it gets to that 18th hole, before the people, as they're approaching the 18th hole, the golf cart may slow down or have a PSA on the top that kind of talks about there's a lot of, there's nēnē presence on this fairway here. Please be careful. And I mean, I don't know how often the dogs are hazing nēnē, and is it after hours? I forget how all that works, but I wasn't sure if they're doing hazing operations during normal business hours. I would think maybe after, but maybe the dog could kind of every now and then go by the 18th hole and push the birds out of the way. But I do see the PSAs on the golf cart. That's right in your face. You see it before you get out of the golf cart. It kind of slows down and makes you look at like what's going on, and you'll see some information on the screen talking about birds in the area and stuff.
Yeah, I know Hōkūala has that as well on their golf carts. That's the PACE technology. I don't know if it pops up with that message in specifically the 18th fairway area, but I know it does have speed reduction and also those little messages that pop up in areas of nēnē nesting. But yeah, if not, that would be a really good idea to have it do that at the same for the 18th fairway as well. And then I think that was the main thing I was gonna say. But yeah.
Jenny, I think I saw you unmuted at 1.2. Did you have something to add to that we missed?
No, you brought up the point that the purpose of the HCP was because it's a facility that has unavoidable take of waterbirds because it's a golf resort as well. So you brought that point up, and I was just trying to look through the annual report. I don't know if it's on page 31 or oh yeah. So referring to Lisa's question, I think it's table 12 that has some of the take that had occurred and some write-up on page 31. So if that's helpful.
Thank you.
But I did want to say, I think our staff has been working with Hōkūala, and I think there was some turnover. I don't know how recently, and I think Colleen, you're pretty new, but she just said that it was really great working with you, and having that communication has improved over the years. So just wanted to mahalo you for that. And I know that there has been some backlog due to the previous person there. So the agencies had been working to catch up and get up to speed with all the data and make sure that they were accurately reflected. So just wanted to, again, mahalo you for working with the agencies so closely.
Yeah, thank you. We actually just finally got through all of that backlog. And so now our numbers are in conjunction, or they're the same as the agency numbers. So that was a big step. So we finally are caught up.
We definitely welcome additional discussion and dialogue from the committee. Just wanted to pull up the recommendation slide so we can do a quick check-in, see if there's anything that needs to be added or moved.
I think for number 1, it's addressed in the annual report, just not the presentation.
Were you referring to one of the slides here, or was that my slide or Jesse's slide?
No, I think that was the comment that Lisa had brought up about asking for a table in the presentation regarding the take that had occurred, like the reasons of take or mortality or injury for each of the species, so that it was easier to review. But I do see it in your annual report.
Okay.
Just yeah, it wasn't in the presentation, so that was just changing language.
Right. Okay.
Maybe Jesse, to add to that, the number 1, prepare for a discussion regarding what portion of these can be minimized through additional actions versus those that cannot be, that are maybe unavoidable. Minimize further versus those that, yeah. So obviously a lot of thought went into the original development of the HCP, and we understand that, but as time goes on, certainly you folks have implemented a lot of updated measures and just preparing to let us know what your thinking is regarding those that can be further minimized. Thanks, Jesse.
Maybe help.
Did one of you bring up something also about the Nēnē and the hazing? Was there something that you wanted to see in regards to that, or no?
I think Lisa had requested more data regarding what the situation. Lisa, you may be correct. What Nēnē are doing on the island as a whole, so that we get a better understanding of where hazing is happening, or where populations are increasing or decreasing or whatnot. So I think she just wanted that general overall picture. Go ahead, Lisa.
No, that's exactly it. I think for context, for understanding the status of this project, it's great for us as the ESRC to have a bigger picture for the strategy for Nēnē, the translocation efforts by DOFAW, the hazing at the airport, like what the bigger picture on the island is. So I think so we aren't just taking this take value of Nēnē at, you know, this one point in time, but understanding the big picture.
Is there any other discussion on the recommendations? There's no other discussion on the recommendation slide. Shall we move forward with agreement on both the ESRC recommendation slide for Hōkūala? We can do a show of hands and we can. Sorry, go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, for number 2, I think I understand the purpose of including the metrics for golf court and resort and I'm assuming that's in relation to understanding the trends of take. Is that correct? So I'm just wondering if it should be similar to what Melissa's suggestion was to just prepare for a discussion regarding like describing those trends, whether or not they increase from previous years or whatnot, and is it due to increase of golf use or guests? I'm assuming that's what it is, but it was just a question.
Sorry, Jenny, you're asking the HCP office the question, right?
Yeah,
And we're waiting for an answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that was the intent.
That was I believe, the spirit of the ask. Does the first sub-bullet under 2, the only sub-bullet, does that accurately capture that?
So we think number 2 was added in response to something from the HCP office, right? That wasn't requested by the committee?
I think it comes from me mentioning like our golfers being educated as well. And I know there's these golf cart things. I just asked the question. I don't know that I don't know that we.
Okay, so your request would be captured in number 1, correct?
Yeah.
1.1.
And if we see, for example, and I can't say for sure, you know, that take from golf cart, the golf activity,
Mhm.
but however that happens is an issue, then, you know, what are the measures that can happen there? So I think it would be in one. I just didn't get a good sense of, I know the property employees and the homeowners are getting educational context. I'm just curious about the golfers.
Okay, so it wasn't metrics for golf course and resort. So maybe delete number 2. Is that correct? Okay, so delete number 2 and then just add to make it a little easier, can we change it to an A or something instead of a 1 and 2? Just so that we can. There we go, something like that. Okay, so, and then add in, Lisa, to capture what you said, prepare for discussion of what the education consists of and whether it's reaching golfers as well as resort guests. Is that accurate, Lisa?
Yeah, I think that would capture it. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Are we good?
That's the person. We'll stand by for you guys to let us know if we're good with the slide.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, nothing else to add here. Okay, we will I guess we'll do a hand raise for this and file this slide for ESRC recommendation for Hōkūala. One recommendation in 2 bullets. Okay, unanimous. We'll maybe save that in the files. Can I just see the staff recommendation? Sure.
So the staff recommendation was focused on updating the committee on naming management actions across the island of Kauaʻi. This would be included as part of the staff presentation for this project. As you folks remember, we did talk about general naming trends on the first day, but this is a specific one for this project, so we included this part of the presentation.
Great. Can we check and see the public can provide comments on this presentation at this point, and so we're going to just take a look and see if we have any comments from folks.
No comments on the item?
No comments. All right. Thank you very much. Colleen, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
With that, we can move to item 3, which is the status of Kamehameha Schools, Keauhou and Kīlauea Forest Lands Safe Harbor Agreement on the island of Hawaii.
Jason,
Yes.
I'm gonna jump off now. Chelsea is online for Fish and Wildlife.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. Nice to see you this morning.
Yep, bye.
And we'll start with staff presentation first.
Should we have Chelsea and some stuff?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Aloha,
Oh,
Chelsea
yeah. Thank you.
Javar-Sales representing the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and no one's in the room with me right now.
Maho.
Okay. We'll start off with a staff presentation for the Kamehameha Schools, Keauhou and Kīlauea Forest Lands. Then I'll be turning over to Namaka Whitehead, who will be doing the presentation for schools. In FY 2025, there was habitat restoration and silviculture work that was done. They planted over 14,000 trees or native plants in FY 2025, bringing the total to more than a little over 100,000 plants across 51 native species. They added an additional 112 acres of koa forest. For fencing and ungulate control, they removed 37 pigs from the lower ranch unit. Forest bird monitoring. These surveys cover 237 stations across 9 transects. All 4 covered forest birds were detected along with Io and Nēnē. Bird detections outside of forest bird stratum 1 suggest additional habitat use. For Nēnē monitoring, monthly surveys documented up to 5 breeding pairs. GPS tracking showed movement from shrubland to kipuka habitats and neighboring properties. HCP staff had the distinct pleasure of visiting a couple days ago to this site. It's amazing just the diversity of habitats that they have there. There was Opeapea monitoring, acoustic monitoring confirmed bat presence at all survey sites throughout sampling periods. DOFAW recommendations for Kamehameha Schools is to submit a draft of the amendment addressing baseline revisions and additional covered species as soon as practicable. We understand that the service is also working through this with the Conservation Benefit Agreement. And then DOFAW continues to work with KS to facilitate the timely review and approval of this amendment. And with that, I'll turn it over to Namaka.
Can you guys see my screen now? Yeah. Okay. Aloha, my name is Namaka Whitehead. I'm a Natural Resources Manager with Kamehameha Schools, and here today to share our Year 7 report for the Kamehameha Schools Safe Harbor Agreement, and a little bit from this current Year 8. Kamehameha Schools is a private educational trust established by the will of Bernice Boahi Bishop to improve the capability and well-being of people of Hawaiian ancestry through education. We have land holdings of approximately 370,000 acres of land that are managed in alignment with our educational mission. The Kamehameha Schools Safe Harbor Agreement covers approximately 32,000 acres of land at Keauhou in Puʻu. It has a 50-year term and covers 33 rare species. And I'm moving through the presentation a little quickly because there's a lot of slides and I want you guys to have time for discussion. So there's 25 covered plant species. 3, due to their extremely low numbers, are noted as special concern species. There's another 6 species that are currently present on the property, 16 covered species that are not present on the property, but were included in the Safe Harbor Agreement with the intention to outplant in the future. And then there's 8 covered wildlife species. And on each of these slides, we have the commitment that was made during the Safe Harbor here up at the top. Oh, there, that's better. And then I've included here on the side kind of the cumulative total of our actions over the past 7 years. So in the agreement, we committed to plant a minimum of 20,000 seedlings during each 5-year period. We've planted over 100,000 seedlings during the first 7 years of the agreement of 51 different species. And so far, this doesn't include any of the covered species, but we hope to change that really soon. In the agreement, we committed to establish a minimum of 1,000 acres of new koa stands on top of what had already been established prior to the agreement. As of the end of year 7, we had established 660 acres of new koa stands. However, we've now run out of area to continue to do this kind of koa reforestation because of how successful the passive restoration has been. All of the remaining pasture areas with deep soils that were suitable for koa silviculture planting have now have such significant canopy cover that we would not want to clear that to plant koa. So we will now be shifting more towards understory plantings in these koa silviculture areas, as well as looking for different methods to restore areas that have less soil. So things like seed scattering, for example. Okay, ungulate management. We committed to manage the property as ungulate-free inside fence units, which at the time of the agreement was 30,150 acres, which I think it might have been less than that. But since the agreement, we added a new unit that wasn't anticipated. It's this one down here. It's about 1,100 acres. For a time, we had very near zero populations, but about maybe 5 years or so ago, we had some ingress, and despite our best efforts, that ingress has resulted in an explosion of pigs. So we've removed, I think, well over 550 pigs during the first 7 years of the agreement. Here in this map, you see where the pig removal occurred in FY25. The ingress happened initially due to some pigs kind of lifting up fences, but we've also confirmed since then that some of the wire used in some of the units adjacent to ranch lands actually had non-standard conservation wire, and the baby pigs were going right through them. So this picture was taken by Hawaiʻi Game Management, one of our ungulate management vendors. They set up a video cam and were able to capture the baby pigs going into and out of the unit. Most of this wire has now been replaced, and it's a really high priority for us over the next 6 months or so to replace the little bits of non-standard wire that are still along the boundary. And that video was taken right around here, I think. But good news, in the past 3 months or so, we have really ramped up pig control efforts. We're doing a lot more trapping. The Three Mountain Alliance is ordering more traps. Our ungulate management vendor has been actively hunting with dogs, and we think that we've now gotten the numbers in the upper unit down to less than 100 pigs and less than 12 pigs in the lower unit. It sounds like a lot, but it's a much better situation than we've been in for many years. So we're on a positive trajectory with decreasing pig numbers, and the hope is that the unit will be back to near zero within hopefully 2 years. We are also working with the Three Mountain Alliance and DOFAW to establish some additional interior fences. They're ordering materials right now, right? I guess actually waiting receipt of materials to install a fence line here along Power Line Road. And we're also considering installing another fence along the main road so that if there is ingress in the future, it will keep the pigs to a more manageable area. Weed control, we committed in the Safe Harbor Agreement to suppress priority weed species, in particular Phaya, ginger, vivy, and Himalayan yellow raspberry to below 10% cover. These 4 species are way below 10% cover across the property. We do periodic vegetation surveys. There's another one coming up this summer that should confirm that. We do have other weed problems that have been more challenging, in particular blackberry. Despite our best efforts, blackberry populations continue to persist. I wouldn't say they're really growing, but they certainly are still present in large numbers. And then we see a lot of invasive grass species, in particular broom sedge, seems to be moving up to higher elevations in the lower sections of Keauhou. And we're trying to develop strategies to manage that, but are not sure what to do at this point. And it might be something that we just kind of need to learn how to live with. We committed to maintain storage capacity and distribution of water sources, as well as primary access routes, and we have continued to do so on a regular basis. Rapid ohia death was first confirmed in Keauhou in 2017, with symptomatic trees observed in Upper Keauhou in 2021. We've been lucky to date. There's been very few symptomatic trees in Upper Keauhou, but over the past 5 years, we have seen increasing numbers of dead trees in Lower Keauhou, especially down at the lowest elevations here. We tested 35 of those trees in FY23, but only one was positive for rod. So we worked with the Three Mountain Alliance to bring in U.S. Forest Service pathologists. They sampled 5 trees in 2023. All five of those trees tested positive for different fungal endophytes. And the current thinking is that some of those fungal endophytes might be contributing to the death of these trees, especially if there's other stressors like drought. We'll continue to work with the U.S. Forest Service to the extent they have capacity, as well as with others to address this. But so far, it's been limited to Lower Keauhou, though the dieback has been quite extensive. And one interesting thing is that most of the trees are showing these cankers, most of the dead trees on their trunks. We conduct annual forest bird monitoring in collaboration with the agencies in the Three Mountain Alliance. In the surveys conducted in 2025, we voluntarily decided to add some new stations. We added 2 new transects, and we extended 4 transects in this area. Habitat seems to be improving outside of the forest bird stratum 1, and we wanted to confirm whether or not endangered forest birds were present. And yeah. So anyway, they're very present in the area. You can see there's more EEV here outside of forest bird stratum 1 than there is within forest bird stratum 1. All 4 of the endangered forest birds were detected on the new transects. 3 of those, EEV, Akiapola'au, and Akepa, were all detected outside of forest bird stratum 1. We did resurvey the new transects and extensions again this current year in 2026, and next year we're investigating the possibility of extending them even further. We'd really like to try to capture this area here to see what the presence of the endangered birds is like in those areas. And here's just a perspective from the beginning of the agreement till now, kind of looking. All we can really say with certainty, without very extensive analysis, is that all 4 birds continue to be present on the property with similar distributions, but it does seem like some populations may be increasing, in particular EEV. There's higher and higher detections in the upper sections of forest bird stratum 1, and then this year just outside. Okay. Nēnē, the state conducts Nēnē monitoring 1 day per month from October to March. The most activity has occurred near the reservoirs. The monitoring is focused on the number of breeding pairs, and there was a high of 5 pairs observed in October. However, this year there were no nests or goslings observed. There were also no downed wildlife reports. this year. One thing I will note from the site visit we had with DOFA and Fish and Wildlife Service last week was that the state Nēnē biologist noted that Keauhou doesn't seem to be particularly important, during nesting season. There's usually relatively low numbers of pairs, very low numbers of nests and goslings compared to a lot of areas. But it does appear to be important foraging habitat outside of breeding season. And they've seen up to 70 Nēnē at times outside of the breeding season. And most of those are coming from Waikoloa, which is really interesting. And these are passed down wildlife reports. Again, there were none in FY25. All have been clustered around the 2 reservoirs. Monitoring for EO was conducted in 2023. They are still present on the property. They've also been recorded in 6 of the 7 annual forest bird surveys. Monitoring of Ope'ape'a occurred in FY24 and FY25. While it was anticipated in the safe harbor that the agencies would conduct this monitoring, they did not have the capacity to do so. So KS worked with the Three Mountain Alliance under the guidance of USGS to conduct this monitoring, and Ope'ape'a were present at each site and location during the sampling period. All of the alala that had been released adjacent to Keauhou were brought back into captivity in 2020. So there's no monitoring there. And then the most complex monitoring, endangered plant species. The intention of the safe harbor was that PEP or DOFA would survey the PEP species annually. The agencies would survey the other founders every 2 years, and then there would also be a survey of outplants every 5 years. We're really behind on this. The agencies do not have capacity to help. So the majority of this of these surveys have been conducted by KS with the assistance of DOFA and PEP. Some of the biggest takeaways from the current year, we found our first population of Silene hawaiiensis. It was a covered species, but we weren't aware of any populations until this year. That was 1 population containing 25 plants. Also, the outplants have not been monitored since the complete census KS did in FY19, FY20. So we are overdue to monitor outplants, and we are actively working on that. 2 species, Phyllostigea erasmosa and Plantego hawaiiensis, have not been present on the property for a number of years. The Phyllostigea erasmosa was represented by only 4 outplants at the beginning of the agreement, and those outplants had actually died prior to the beginning of the agreement. But because we had set the baseline prior to the agreement, they're still counted. And the Plantego was a single wild founder that's no longer present. And so both of those are species that are high priorities for us to outplant in the near future. This year populations continue to decline, but we have been very active in making collections and are hoping to outplant as soon as this month. I think. And then the Crematia peleana, 2,000 of those were planted after the baseline was set. Those have never been surveyed, and so that's also a really high priority. It's difficult to find qualified folks to do this kind of monitoring outside of the agency staff, and those that we have found have really limited capacity to do the work because there's so few private vendors that can do this kind of work. So we are exploring a new collaboration with the UH Manoa Botany Department. We actually had a group of students that came out, was it last week? 2 weeks ago, I think, and assisted us for 3 days doing monitoring of some of the outplants. So we're hoping to explore other collaborations to get this monitoring done. but it is extremely onerous. So for collections, this year we collected in FY25, 24 cuttings from 7 founders and 31 seeds from 4 founders. From the beginning of the agreement, that's a total of cuttings from 12 founders and 156 seeds from 5 founders. And all of those are in storage either at the Volcano Rare Plant Facility or at Lion Arboretum. There has been a really big problem over the last few years with propagules at the Volcano Rare Plant Facility being damaged and killed by mites in the nursery. So we are working with DOFA to look at possibly moving some outplants to other nurseries to see if they will do well there. It's also made outplanting much more pressing because the plants are not doing well right now in the greenhouse. So again, we're hoping to outplant as soon as this month at Keauhou. And then after we outplant at Keauhou, we'd like to outplant in other locations, including at Kulani. Phyllostegia macrophylla is not a covered species under the Safe Harbor Agreement. It's also not listed, but the only known plant on Hawaiʻi Island occurs here at Keauhou. It is very large, very robust and healthy. And over the course of the agreement, we've collected a total of 13 cuttings and 250 fruit that are in storage. This is one of the species that we're proposing to add to the Safe Harbor Agreement, even though it's unlisted. It's so rare that we anticipate it will likely be listed in the future. So next steps, we are working on the 5-year comprehensive survey of endangered plant species. We will continue supplemental survey focusing on Plantago hawaiiensis. We're curious if there might be more individuals out there. We haven't found any yet. We'll do additional collection focusing on Bissia menzizii and Phyllostegia macrophylla. Outplanting focused on Bissia menzizii, Phyllostegia rasmosa, and Plantago hawaiiensis. And then we also have our amendment request. So this is the amendment request. We've shared this with you guys previously, so I won't go over it in much detail. But we're proposing to decrease the baseline of 5 species due to outplant mortality in the first 2 years of the agreement. This was something that was anticipated and written into the agreement because we had seen such high mortality of very young outplants that had been included in the baseline. We did complete that survey within the first 2 years of the agreement, but because we didn't submit the physical written survey to DOFA within that 2-year time period, the AG said that we were unable to use the minor amendment process that had been anticipated in the agreement, and needed to pursue this as a major amendment. And then really quick, this is the baseline and the requested amendment. Again, this is all mortality of very young outplants that occurred in the first 2 years of the agreement. The other part of the amendment is we're requesting to add 7 new covered plant species, 4 of which are present on the property and 3 of which are not present but do have habitat on the property. The 4 that are present on the property are Exocarpus menzizii and Senecio samucensis, which weren't detected until after the agreement began. And then 2 unlisted species, Phyllostegia macrophylla, which we just talked about. There's a single wild individual, and Phyllostegia ambigua. There are a few outplants. And then the 3 with habitat on property are Phyllostegia stachyoides, Pittosporum hawaiiense, and Shidea diffusa subspecies macrii. We were advised to conduct baseline surveys for these species that we are requesting to add to the agreement, and those surveys were conducted by Reed Liu, one of our KS staff, and Sebastian Ma'a from Land Legacy Stewardship Initiative. And we have a report that was completed in October 2025. This map shows all of the surveys that have been conducted from the baseline surveys prior to the safe harbor up until the current surveys conducted for this report. And these are the baselines that we'll be requesting for these new species. There's 9 Exocarpus menzizii, 6 Senecio sanosensis, the 1 Phyllostigma macrophylla, 8 outplants of Phyllostigma ambigua, and then the others would have a baseline of 0. Next steps for the amendment, we're going to submit the supplemental survey along with a written request to the agencies due to changes at the Fish and Wildlife Service. The agreement will need to be converted to a conservation benefit agreement, and then we would pursue ESRC and BLNR approvals. We're anticipating that in total, with the state and federal process, this might take 1.5 years. And that's it. Mahalo. Any questions?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. That's it's always a pleasure to see these presentations. I was wondering, what can for the bird surveys, what's the elevation at the I guess the new transects that you added at the lower part?
The new transects we added, we're not in the lower part. So you might be referring to this map. So every 3 years we survey transects in Lower Keauhou.
Yeah.
So every year we survey Upper Keauhou, and then every 3 years we do Lower Keauhou. What was different this year was that we added this transect here. We added this transect here, Malka and Puʻu, and then we extended these transects here. Outside of the black line is what's referenced in the agreement is Forest Bird Stratum 1. It was the area that was delineated by the agencies as being the primary endangered forest bird habitat. And so it's really encouraging that we're now seeing the endangered birds outside of this area.
Yeah. And I guess, so what is the elevation?
But I don't
for
know
the
the
lowest
elevation.
ones
So
that
the lowest ones. So these ones way down here.
Yeah, it's because you're seeing EV at the
Yes.
bottom ones, yeah.
And we're seeing all the endangered birds at really low elevations too. Like in FY21 and FY24, when we surveyed these lower areas, we saw all of the birds at very low elevations. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can try and figure it out while you guys are talking and then let you guys know. It's in the vicinity. These lower transects are at the same elevation as Kipuka Puʻu. Very close to the edge of Kīlauea crater. So they're quite low.
That's encouraging. You're seeing EEV down there.
Yeah.
Sorry, Karen, did you have any other questions? I don't want to cut you off. Okay.
No, that was it.
Okay. So, and there's a car repair going on outside. Hopefully the sound isn't coming through. As Karen said, Namaka, it is always a pleasure to have this presentation at ESRC. And I was just curious, can you remind me, I think I missed it as you were presenting, what methods you're using for your bat surveys?
For the bat surveys?
Yeah.
We replicated the surveys that were conducted by USGS for the baseline. So it was acoustic monitoring at high and low elevation sites. They used mini bat recorders and surveyed 7 to 10 days per month.
Got it. Okay. So you haven't had any visual surveys as part of your work?
No, we have not.
Okay. Okay.
But we do regularly see bats. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Yeah, I know. I know you would notice them if they were there. And so I was just curious because in our other work, this is less of a comment for improvement or anything like that, but more an opportunity to pick your brain. As part of our work, we are providing feedback on the bat guidance documents for for the wind turbine HCPs. And so I was just like, a lot of them are having habitat work as part of the mitigation. And so what kind of habitat are you seeing Opeapea in? And is it, I noticed you've got closed canopy and open canopy here in the upper right corner. And I think that's what kind of sparked my interest is just kind of where you're seeing them, what they're using. And yeah, it seems like there's a lot of work that needs to be done on better understanding what habitat is really great for Opeapea.
Yeah, I don't know if I can really speak to that. We see them everywhere. I mean, normally when you see them, you're seeing them in more open areas, but we're assuming that they are also in the more closed forest habitat areas. For the safe harbor, the baseline was set as was set by habitat. So the baseline is the 18,500 acres of closed and open canopy habitat. We are required to monitor that via canopy assessment every 10 years. So that's coming up soon. And we're kind of excited to see how that's changed because there does seem to be so much increase in native canopy. And then the species occupancy every 5 years, but that doesn't really give us any kind of idea of abundance or population, just that they're present on the property. So as new methods become available, we're happy to utilize those, but we look to the agencies for guidance on how best to monitor Opeapea.
Thank you. I will say that you're the first person I've heard just casually say, "Oh yeah, we see them all the time." I feel like amongst managers, I don't hear people say that kind of a comment. They usually describe them as being very difficult to see, or "Oh, it's so hard to find them." And so if it's possible to have some sort of a way of capturing the observations through some sort of kilo records or something like that, in a way that could help inform tree use or so species use for roosts, or especially if it's maternal roosts, right? Those are of particular interest. Definitely open versus closed. I know they wouldn't be standardized surveys to be able to say, are they preferentially using edge habitat versus closed canopy or anything like that. They wouldn't be standardized in that way, but just it feels like any information that could be offered, particularly in this native dominated habitat, would be incredible, really helpful.
And it's usually like when you are when you're staying overnight there, you'll see them at twilight, in open areas, and that's actually really common. I feel like across Hawaii Island, even in like more rural residential areas, I see them often at my house. I see them flying over the highway when I drive home, and so we can try to see what we can do, but I don't know that like people being overnight at Keauhou is consistent enough that it would really show us anything, but we can try. Yeah,
that's really interesting. Okay. Yeah, I just don't I don't know if other people have a different experience, but I don't hear people describe them that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some other spots, especially in the Kauaʻi area, that are pretty regular. Most evenings you would see.
Yeah. And that's what I'm thinking of as well. I live in South Kona, so I'm thinking like Ka'u and South Kona, they're very abundant, and I guess there's not many people that live out there. So for those of us who do, it seems like they're very abundant, but that's not the case in most places. Yeah.
Aloha, Nama. I just have one question. This is Jason. Well, comment first. Yeah, every time I come to the Big Island, I see bats, and walking those transects in the Ka'u area. You're seeing a few bats every evening, if not more. But one of the things that I heard you mention was Hawaii game management. And I'm familiar with some of their activities with managing game species on private property. And we do issue some aerial permits for them to push wildlife using an aircraft. And I was just wondering, do you guys have like I'm not sure where that's happening. I actually just now kind of thought like, okay, you have this big forest bird habitat and you have these open pastoral lands right there. And when they're pushing these animals, do you guys have any ways to like avoid impact from the sensitive forest bird areas? Are you flying and trying to miss the nesting period, February through June or anything like that? I just was wondering if you have any information on that.
So we don't currently use any aircrafts in our ungulate management activities at Keauhou. We may have in the past prior to the safe harbor agreement because we had sheep and goats, pigs, cattle, and so I know we used a lot of Judas animals to get some of those out, but we haven't used any aircraft since the beginning of the safe harbor. We do utilize or HGM utilizes aircrafts to do sheep drives for us in West Hawaii, in Maukakona. It's been very successful. For example, you guys might have heard of our Lupea Forest Unit. It's a Iliahi Mamane Nayo forest, about 6,000 acres, managed by the Three Mountain Alliance. DOFA and Fish and Wildlife Service have both contributed funding there in the past. In that 6,000 acre unit, we were able to get all of the sheep out with 2 helicopter drives and push them into an adjacent hunting area. It was hugely successful. At the time, I don't think we took any special precautions to avoid impacts to forest birds, but there's also not as many forest birds and certainly not as many endangered birds in that area. As we look to use helicopters in the future, we will consider methods and strategies to avoid impacts. Perhaps we could time the drives outside of nesting seasons. We'll also look to Fish and Wildlife Service avoidance and minimization measures that are available. But if anyone has specific measures they'd recommend, we would also be happy to implement those. Yeah, and we usually only do that for feral sheep. The other species of ungulates are not easily herdable.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I was just trying to remember what polygons you guys were pushing animals. Was it in this location or it was probably the other location. Yeah, just
Yeah, all
something
in
to think
West
about
Hawaii.
when you guys doing those kind of control operations. We kind of follow some standards on altitudes and things like that. And I'm sure you have to get a little bit lower to push the animals to ground folks and stuff like that. But having some minimization stuff in there and avoidance would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'll just say mahalo from the Fish and Wildlife Service and the agencies for all the good work, amazing work as always, and also for hosting us at the site visit last week. That was really, really beneficial and helpful for us to see the large, expansive area that you guys are managing and also the covered activities that are taking place. Mahalo again.
Awesome. It was great having you guys. And also if any other DOFA staff, Fish and Wildlife Service staff, if members of the ESRC, I know you guys probably have like sunshine requirements, but if anyone else ever wants to come out to the property and see what we're doing, we're happy to host you guys. Just let us know.
Thank you, Namaka. I think ESRC would love that. And I also just, I guess, to my understanding, this is the largest safe harbor agreement that has ever been done. And I know, given what a pleasure it is to see all the work you folks are doing, do you have any guidance for or thoughts about what could make this attractive for more private landowners to participate in?
The monitoring is very onerous, I would say, and I think is probably too much for most landowners to take on. And even for KS, I'm not sure if we would do another agreement like this elsewhere, because of the amount of monitoring that's required. And as you are more and more successful, more and more monitoring is required. As you outplant more endangered plant species, more monitoring is required. So if there's any way to I don't know, 'cause I know we have to monitor the progress in order to show that there's net benefit. But if there's any way to make that less onerous, or if there is ways for the agencies to help private landowners with that, I think that's the main thing that would make this more attractive. In this location, it really does make sense for us to have a safe harbor because we do have we have other activities that make this worth our while. We're out planting koa that we may want to harvest someday. And so having the reassurance that we'll be able to harvest that koa, no matter how successful our endangered species efforts are, having the assurance that we can continue our educational programs in endangered species habitats, it's worth it for us here. But I don't see too many other situations where this type of agreement would make sense for us. Maybe at a smaller scale, like with one species in a smaller area, but probably not at this scale unless there's a way to ease the monitoring and reporting requirements. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I would just maybe note for Jesse and Jason, to me, that would be a good reason to arrange for a site visit at some point, is more to have that extended conversation with Namaka. And if someone like Matt Kier could join, as well as the plant folks in particular in these islands, the benefits that I see for plants in particular potentially on private lands, and encouraging private landowners to be able to have legal protections if they want to encourage endangered species on their lands, it's a strong motivator. And so figuring out how to make this appealing to private landowners is really important. And I think the insights that you can offer Namaka would be amazing toward that goal. So anyways, just want to stick a pin in that for Jesse and team. But engaging the statewide botanists would be important to, again, it's just all about making sure everyone has all of the tools in their tool belt available and ready to go, and understands when to use them and when they're going to make sense, and so that we can all be educating people about them. So thank you again.
Namaka, you may have blackbird alala over there again, end of 27, 28, or might see them over there. So
Awesome. We would love to see them.
Back Kāu. And I wish I was able to attend the site visit with staff, and so we will coordinate for sure and get up there with the ESRC. And so we have that as one of the recommendations here for our staff. So that's great.
I would maybe just note, I know you mentioned the Hawaii PEP staff, but I know, for example, with Scott's Maui landscape conservation plan and that type of a thing, engagement with private landowners is also important for accomplishing those goals. And so it might be useful for PEP staff more broadly to be able to attend and see what's going on there and hear from Namaka what would make it appealing for private landowners.
I would add to number one that it's also the site visit is also to assist her with monitoring efforts, right? To expand those tools, rare plant monitor or illicit plant monitoring.
Yeah, I very much hear you on that, Namaka, and that's the case whether we're talking about carbon credits or anything else, right? That's where the burden lies, is in that kind of stuff. It'll probably be island by island solutions as far as what could be in place for something like that. But yeah, it's an important point. Sorry, Jesse, I know how it is when we come back a year from now. We're like, what do we mean by include monitoring for rare plants? So maybe just say something to the effect of to make safe harbor agreements more appealing to private landowners, assistance with monitoring would be helpful. And certainly most private landowners don't have the expertise to identify plants the way KS does. I don't think I heard anything else from ESRC as far as recommendations. Is that correct? Were you ready to show of hands?
Yep, we can do show of hands.
You don't, I guess for the staff recommendations, we haven't typically done a show of hands.
Oh, this is ESRC regulations.
I think there weren't. Do we have any for?
So we can just have a show of hands that we're in agreement. There are
No other thing to add to the list?
no things to add for ESRC.
I don't have anything to add from my end, so we can do show of hands if there's anything else to add for the recommendations for maybe in schools. If there's nothing else, we can just say leave the slide as is. I would agree. Okay, all right. Thank you all. Can we look and see if we have any public testimony on anything?
Across all three platforms.
No public comments. Again, Maka, thank you so much for being here today and providing an overview of your project. It's great to see all of those things, and hopefully we can get folks up there and in person to talk to you. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Mahalo nui, mahalo to you all for the support. It really is a team effort. It's not just Kamehameha Schools, but we work super closely with the Three Mountain Alliance and with your staffs to make this happen. So mahalo. And Karen, I think the lowest elevation of endangered forest birds was around like 4,200 feet, but I will double check that. It was quite low. Okay. Mahalo. Aloha.
Thank you.
We can take a 10-minute break real quick and we can come back and move on to item 4, if that's okay with everyone.
Sounds good.
Thank you. See you at 10:54. Aloha, everyone. Just back on. Well, everyone, just coming back online. Give it one more minute here before we start again here. All right, I guess we can start here. I just wanted to let everyone know, Deputy AG Danica Patel is here today. She just joined us a little while ago, so I just wanted to let folks know. Aloha, Danica. Thanks for being here today.
Hi everyone, no problem. Sorry I was like 20 minutes late, but either way, it's nice hearing these presentations. I'm happy to be here on Safe Harbor Agreement Day. It is more pleasant to hear about, so it's nice. Thanks. I'm here if you need me.
Okay, thank you. So this brings us to item 4. And that is the status of the Safe Harbor Agreement for the introduction of the endangered Orangeblack Hawaiian damselfly to a conservation area on Lanai. And we will continue forward with the staff presentation or updates on that project that started a year or so ago.
All right, ESRC members, I'm going to be pulling up that presentation. Just so everyone knows, we have John from Lāna on the line in case you have any questions. So just a handful of updates. As you know, this SHA was recently approved. So the newest thing has been a change of pond placement due to flooding that occurred during the Kīlauea storms. The division is still determining if a formal letter is required.
Sorry, Jesse. I don't know
Yes.
if you're showing the screen you mean to be showing. We're seeing Hōkūala.
Oh, okay. Let's try this again.
I see it on our main
And we're also, can you take it out of it's so small for me, but it's in the presentation mode. No.
All right, folks.
There we go. Looks good.
Perfect. Thank you. Third time's a charm. All right. So again, not a whole lot of updates for this project since they just started. There's been a change of pond placement due to flooding. This is from the Kīlauea storms that we have. Letter was submitted to our division. We're in the process of determining if a formal letter is required for this minor/administrative amendment to the SHA. In general, no covered activities were undertaken during this period. Fence materials were procured. A site visit for pond placement was completed. And the proposed future activities for the coming year from number 7 in the annual document. So we could pull that annual review document up for you folks, or should be available on our website. But just the main thing is that change in pond placement. So it's the graphic that's on the right. We have in darker blue the conservation area. In green, we have the revised conservation boundaries. And with that, I'll turn it over to John.
Yeah, maybe just one side note. It was a silver lining of the Kona lows that we had come through. That initial site there ended up under about 8 feet of water over probably about 75% of the proposed area. So glad we were able to catch that. If it had been 6 weeks later, we probably would have wrecked a good portion of the fence as it was being installed. So sort of grateful for the rain to show us that failure point and try to move it over to the side. So beyond that, I don't have anything else to add. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, John. And the ESRC, they were all able to visit that site, and I think we actually walked through the green polygon on the way out of there. Yeah, good thing that the fence wasn't flooded or anything else happened down there. So I don't have any comments on this or recommendations from DOFAW or from this seat. I don't know if we have a recommendation slide for anybody, but
Can I just ask, I guess, is there a reason why the original site was chosen over the new site? Like I just yeah, I mean I remember the area, I just don't know why. Yeah.
Sure.
One spot is better or worse than the other.
Yeah, part of it was logistics and proximity to the cultural hale. So the Culture and Heritage Preservation crew has been building that educational hale that is kind of in the top right-hand corner of the dark blue square as you see it. And the green, the new alignment still incorporates that hale and some of the area that they're going to be introducing plants into in that same fenced unit. So it really was just proximity, and it was a little bit closer to the road. There wasn't really a strong reason for putting it there. When we were doing the site assessment, there was a little bit of a concern because there is an outflow from kind of the retention berm that is just north of that dark blue square. And sort of our initial assessment was that it wasn't high risk enough to not do it in that space. And the Kona lows proved us wrong. So, yeah.
Do you have any other questions from the committee?
I don't think so. This is great. No. Good to see progress, and glad you avoided having to fix something before it was even implemented.
Right. Can we check and see if we have any comments from the public?
We have no comments.
No comments from the public. All right. I think we can move forward. John, appreciate you being here.
Yep. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Our next item on the agenda is item 5, and that's Haleakalā Ranch Safe Harbor Agreement on the island of Maui, Hōkū Safe Harbor Agreement, island of Molokaʻi, and the Programmatic Nēnē Safe Harbor Agreement also on the island of Maui. And we'll continue with staff presentation this time.
Okay. So for our all of our Nēnē SHAs, this is a very high level overview. I'm more than happy to pull out the submittal and walk you folks through that if you needed. Just have a couple of highlights here. So remember, for Haleakalā and Puʻu, Hōkū, these safe harbor agreements, it's interesting because they're connected to the HCPs for KWP. So today we're just evaluating if they maintain the population above baseline, and then if there were any harmful actions that were conducted. So that's separate from the HCP actions that we evaluated yesterday. So jumping into it, FY 2025 implementation summary for monitoring population status. Birds were released in staged groups and monitored using bands and transmitters. Some adults dispersed beyond the ranch. You heard about that bird that holoed around the island, went into town. One nest produced 3 goslings with 1 documented mortality. And they completed health screenings. So I believe these would be reference to the safe harbor on Molokaʻi, these statistics or these metrics that were reported. And then habitat management and predator control. This included invasive species removal and mowing within and around the release pen. Predator control efforts were conducted. They deployed live traps and A24 traps, removing mongoose, cat, and 1 rat. And then for the programmatic Nēnē safe harbor, there are currently no participants on the island of Molokaʻi. However, Branch is doing a great job of trying to do outreach with the community to see if there are any other landowners that are interested in participating. DOFAW recommendations are to continue maintaining existing ITLs, continuing coordinated management among division, KWP, and landowners, and expanding outreach to increase programmatic SHA participation on Molokaʻi. So there are MOUs in place that are clearly defining for these sites that have mixed usage between HCP and safe harbor, what everyone's roles are. So to address one of the ESRC recommendations from yesterday for staff, kind of smoothing that out. In this case, that's been done through an MOU. Unfortunately, we do not have branch staff today. So for targeted questions, I'll be collecting those and connecting with branch, and I'll report out to you folks.
Thank you, Jesse. Does the committee have any recommendations on these 2 safe harbors, 3 safe harbors?
Sorry, can you put the screen back up again? And I was just curious if you do you have like a comparison table of the 3 sites or the 2 sites? I know we saw it yesterday. I guess you've got the numbers there.
I believe we just have the numbers in the submittal as well. In the future, would you like to see a comparison table?
If they're producing something, I don't know. Are you guys happy with how this is working?
I think there's been problems over time. I think with new management right now, I think things will probably be running a little bit more smoother and more goslings on the landscape and stuff. When I look at some of the data, there's a lot of eggs hatched, there's a couple fledglings produced, but then there's predation happening. And so I think with new management and stuff like that, we're going to see these things get a little bit, maybe a lot better. So I kind of have faith in that. But yeah, if this was kind of the status quo continue forward, there would be problems. And so.
Okay. So am I understanding, like, changes have been made, you expect things to get better, we kind of have to wait and see what the trend line is next year. Am I understanding the situation correctly?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to convey, yes.
Another interesting wrinkle with these three is Puʻu Hōkū has opted not to continue their safe harbor agreement. So we just have an MOU with those folks for access, but they don't have active safe harbor.
I'm sorry if I'm just not remembering something that's been said before. Given the number of HCPs that need offset isn't the right word, but you know what I mean. They need mitigation for Nēnē. Are there other options other than these two sites? Is there a need for it, or am I misremembering from yesterday that there's a need for more?
I don't know if there's an actual need for additional Nēnē pens to produce Nēnē, but there are more areas that could be utilized. I mean, I don't know if we've ever utilized our Nēnē pens in Puʻu on the Big Island, but that's a different island, but I think we're trying to stay within Maui Nui on these. But yeah, I think the space is there for what is happening right now.
Okay.
I think we didn't have one on Molokaʻi and it wasn't being managed completely. I think that was an issue. But now that we have that back up and running and the ranch managing it and the constant predator control and whatnot, I just think there were some unfortunate things happening this year with the Harrier and
Yeah, that's out of their control. Yeah, I get it. I don't have a memory of ever seeing this presented on where it was like, these pens are so productive and they're such a great source. And it seems like Nēnē elsewhere are doing better. So the pens just haven't seemed to be super successful. But if you have a plan in place, I'll just wait for next year.
And my apology for missing a bit of time, but I think this also, if it wasn't talked about earlier, kind of the larger strategic Nēnē plan for the state, given what we just heard about from Kauaʻi as well. I think it would be helpful for us to have that background. So as we review and analyze mitigation and safe harbors, that we know it's part of this bigger Nēnē strategy for the state. I don't know if that's possible, but it would be, I think, a valuable thing to have background on for ESRC members.
Melissa, we pulled some numbers for you. So just to remind everyone, for Haleakalā, there were 43 banded Nēnē, 11 unbanded, 11 nests, 24 eggs hatched, 8 fledglings, 5 produced, 11 birds banded, 10 live traps with removal of 4 monkeys, mongooses, 7 rats and 2 cats, 15 goslings were predated and 4 goslings died. That was for Haleakalā. And then for Puʻu Hōkū, it's mostly translocations. We have 1 nest, 3 goslings. They have 14 traps. They removed 9 mongoose, 2 cats, 1 rat, and 1 gosling died in the pen.
And maybe part of it is I'm kind of in my head thinking of this like a captive breeding program, and it seems unusual to have a captive breeding program have low numbers like that. Like but it's not really, right? It's open to the air, it's exposed to other things. There's cats, there's mongoose, there's other things. So I may just have the framing wrong in my head of kind of what this is.
Yeah, but I do think it's important that, we do provide you guys information on, statewide, what we're doing with Nēnē. So we can talk with our Waterbird folks and kind of give you a little overview of their intentions in the future and those kind of things. And also maybe, status of the Nēnē. I know it's been hard to keep Nēnē on Molokaʻi over the years. And I think that may have been due to management of the area there, but it looks like there's like little twinkles of success starting to happen. So we want to kind of see what goes on through this next year. We're gonna see if we're gonna pull up just a recommendation slide here in a second. And then this is for staff.
Is it just Maui Nui that people are interested, or is it statewide?
Yeah, we should do statewide there, but we can hone in on Maui Nui if needed when it comes to these kind of projects too. I'm not totally sure of like what the future translocation efforts are going to be. It seems like every 4 or 5 months they're moving birds, and it would be good to know like how many are you guys planning to move to Molokaʻi and some of those kind of things, and even the status of the birds that we have on the Big Island that are kind of living in Puʻu. I think it's just having this strategy of what the state plans to unfold, in the next 5 years. Do we have any recommendations from ESRC for these safe harbors at all besides the recommendation to staff?
I don't think so.
Let me check and see if we have any comments from the public.
No comments from the public.
Awesome. If it's okay with everyone, we could move on to our next agenda item. Is item 6, and that's the status of the Hawaii Seabird Habitat Conservation Plan, KSHCP, Seabird mitigation at Ku'uma'a Seabird Preserve on the island of Hawaii. We will start with the. Are we going to do a staff presentation on this, or are we going straight to Eric?
We're going straight there.
Okay, we'll have a presentation from Eric Vanderwoord. And Eric, aloha. Thank you for being here today.
Happy to be here. So I can start sharing my screen here, I hope. Oops. That's a predator fence. That's not what I wanted to share. There. Can you all see that? Do you see the screen with the report here?
Very tiny inset within your screen. It's visible, but not really legible.
Okay. let me stop that and try again here. Okay, is that better?
If we're expected to read it, it's still on the small side.
Okay.
I have my glasses on, but
Well,
it's a little rough.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, this is, so my plan here was to essentially go briefly through the report. You know, my understanding is you guys have all seen the report before and hopefully had a chance to read it. I don't really have anything new to add that's not already in the report. But I can just go through, you know, some of the highlights and answer questions. So I don't expect you to read anything that's on the screen. So hopefully it'll be okay the way it is now.
Can you just Control Plus and just make it bigger?
Try. Is that making it bigger on your end?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, it's showing the whole screen here. Not really sure how to change that.
There's a little magnifying glass on the upper right-hand side that might work.
Yeah, that's what I just did.
Oh, okay.
There. Is that better?
It is, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so just briefly, now it's enormous on my end, so I can only see a few words at a time. But let me just scroll through. So this is a list here of the specific management activities associated with the Kamehameha Seabird Preserve. You know, first was just construction and long-term maintenance of the predator exclusion fence, you know, which was done several years ago. Installation and long-term maintenance of seabird social attachment equipment, including artificial nest boxes and a sound system, and then eradication of predators, monitoring for predator incursions within the fence, barn owl control, feral cat control around the social attraction site, and also in neighboring areas that could serve as sources for colonizing birds from Kīlauea Valley, and then invasive plant control within the enclosure. And this is a timeline of all the activities. We don't have to go over that in detail. But basically the fence construction was finished in 2021. The sound system and nest boxes were also installed in 2021. And then the rodent trapping and inside the fence began shortly before the fence was completed. And the cat trapping started in 2020. And then also seabird monitoring using auditory surveys that are done in the morning and evening also have been done every year since then. So fence maintenance, there was no major fence maintenance required this year, which was nice. There's been some bigger issues in the past. The main thing just involved one area kind of on the Molokaʻi side of the fence where erosion has caused the fence skirt to become visible. And that's a problem because if rats can see the edge of the skirt, they know where to dig to get underneath. And we don't want that. So our staff there, primarily Dave, dug underneath the mesh and buried it deeper and then covered it with soil. And we're trying to get grass to grow there, which has been a challenge. In some places this has worked well. In other places, pigs keep coming by and rooting up the grass that we plant. So it's been an ongoing battle. But this year it was a relatively small scale battle that we felt like we've won, at least in the short term. Biological monitoring, there's a grid system set up with bait stations and traps that we use to eradicate rats from inside. When the fence was done, there were no cats inside. They were either non-present or they left voluntarily by just climbing out of the fence. There were some rats inside, and we removed them mostly with bait stations, also some traps. And this grid just shows the network of the grid stations. We did ground searching for seabirds before the fence was done, just to determine whether there were any seabirds already present in the area, and there were not. And this shows an area where we did the intensive ground searching for seabirds, kind of in the areas where you might most expect them to occur, but we didn't find any. And the remainder of the site, so and in this figure here, the purple area is really the best seabird habitat. This is right along kind of the top of a steep slope that overlooks Kalalau Valley. And this is the part of the preserve that really has the suitable seabird habitat. The remainder of the fenced area is a rare plant outplanting site that the state uses for a variety of rare plant species. It's relatively flat. The vegetation is pretty dense. It's not really great seabird habitat. It's this area outlined in purple that does contain the good seabird habitat. And that's where all the nest boxes and the sound system are located, is within that purple area. So let's see, seabird auditory surveys. Let me just go to this table. So each year we have done nocturnal auditory surveys to listen and look for seabirds flying past. And we've done this usually for six evenings and 6 mornings each year. The exact number of hours is varied a little bit depending on, mostly on weather. And the results are shown here by year for Newell shearwater, Hawaiian petrel, and band rump storm petrel. And you can see a little bit of a disappointing pattern in that, especially for Newell shearwater, the number of detections has gone down. We don't really know the reason for this. They're still there. We still hear, what seems like a lot of them, but not as many as were detected in the first couple of years. There's been a little bit more variation for Hawaiian petrels. It started out low, and 2023 was a big year, and then it's gone down again since then. For band rump storm petrels, we have detected none in the last 2 years, and we don't know why this is. We know that there are nesting colonies, probably of all 3 species, not too far downslope in Kalalau Valley, not that far from the fenced area. And some of this is probably sampling error. We don't have that many nights per year, and weather conditions are really the biggest factor that affects the detection rate. If it's windy and rainy, the birds are just less active and also harder to hear and see. So I think that explains part of it, but not all of it. So especially for Newells, there really has been somewhat of a decline, I think. And like I said, we don't really know the cause of that. Seabird social attraction. So we installed nest boxes, which I think there's a picture of here. Let me scroll down. We installed 100 nest boxes. And this is a similar design that we've used in other places. The box is mostly underground and has a black plastic tube that serves as an access tunnel to get inside the box. There's a shade lid to prevent direct sun from hitting the top box so it doesn't get too hot inside. And these have been effective for us in other places. So we know that seabirds like them. We just have to get them close so they can see them. And that's where the sound system comes in. And we are finally having some success with that. Last year we had a Hawaiian petrel visit on a few nights, and last year, 2 years ago in 2024, and then in 2025, we actually had the first Newell shearwater visit. So this was a big milestone for the project. It was just a single bird, but it was there on several different nights, and it was detected with trail cameras, which you can see the photos of here. And in the top left picture, you can actually see the birds calling. It's vocalizing, probably in response to the sound playback system. So this is good news. We hope this pattern continues. We haven't had any detections yet this year, but it's still pretty early in the season. And we also in 2025 had visits by Hawaiian petrels again. There's this picture here is a Hawaiian petrel. You can see that both birds are actually in the same spot. So they're at the base of the same tree in front of the same Hawaiian petrel decoy. And you can't quite see it, but one of the speakers from the sound system is just off screen of the camera to the left. So they're attracted probably mostly by the sound. We added decoys thinking that it might help. We don't really know. But the decoys are located right next to a speaker, so we can't really separate, what's actually attracting them. So anyway, this was a big milestone that we were pretty happy about, the first Newell shearwater visiting. And we hope that that pattern certainly continues. And habitat restoration, mostly what we do is just remove weeds. And we focus on the area around where the nest boxes are to make sure that no plants grow up and restrict access to the nest boxes. We also check the nest boxes every week. We've not yet found a bird inside one of them, but hopefully that will happen someday. And these are the invasive plant species that we focus mostly on. We don't really do weeding around other parts of the fenced area because we've been asked to not disturb the rare plants in there. So we just focus on the area around the seabird restoration part of the fence. Next, predator control and eradication. So the cat trapping is done in 2 areas using tomahawk live traps. It's done along the Kauaʻi rim, kind of on both sides of the Kamehameha Preserve, and also along the beginning of the Alakai Swamp Trail. So the area, around the fence, obviously we don't want cats there. But the reason we do trapping is that is probably the most important access point that cats could use to get farther in, deeper into the Alakai, where they could prey on cats in some of the colonies in there that ARC and KSHCP monitor. We know there's already cats in there and they struggle with those, but we don't want any more cats going in there, and that's what the trapping along this Alakai Swamp Trail is for, is to prevent more cats from accessing the deeper areas of the Alakai where they could do more damage. And I think there are some graphs. All right, scrolling slowly here. Oh, so barn owls. We in the past have seen very few or 0 barn owls up around the Kamehameha Preserve. In 2025, they were seen twice on trail cameras, so not often. We have not been doing barn owl control for the last several years because it's done in the same area by Haleakalā, and they do a good job of it. And at one point they asked us to not do barn owl hunting, so as to not interfere with their hunting efforts. We could start doing that again when we can coordinate that with Haleakalā to make sure that we're not like both hunting on the same night or something. But the number of owls is really pretty small, but it was a little bit troubling to see one so close to the fence. So that's something we're looking into, and would have to get a depredation permit for barn owls from both Fish and Wildlife Service and the state in order to do this. And I'm in the process of applying for those permits now. I wanted to show. Okay, So the presence of predators inside the fence. Yeah, I mentioned before that there were no cats inside when the fence was completed, and we were pretty confident that we did eradicate rats at one point, but there have been incursions since then. So rats, we think, have gotten back in. It's possible we never actually got the last rats, but I don't think so. We think they actually were down to 0 about a year after the fence was completed. And there's been a couple of different incursions, one in 2022, and we think that this happened when a gate was left open accidentally and rats probably got back inside. We don't know exactly how. And at that point, we reactivated the baiting grid and deployed more traps. And since 2023, there's been no mice again, but there is still evidence of Polynesian rats. And this comes primarily not from tracking tunnels, but from pictures on the trail cameras, which I'm showing here. And we think it might just be a single Polynesian rat that's left inside. The tracking rate on tracking cards is very low, often 0. But we still occasionally see them on the trail cameras. So this has been a source of not a small amount of frustration for Dave, our technician up there. And it's not for lack of effort that we haven't caught this animal. Polynesian rats are notorious for being harder to trap than other rat species. They're just more shy. They're sometimes just reluctant to take any artificial bait. They're harder to get rid of. And this last rat is certainly an example of that. So we still have all the bait stations stocked with bait. The rat has not touched them in months or years. We have snap traps as well as A24 good nature traps, and those have not caught it either. We're still trying different types of bait in the snap traps and the A24 traps to see if we can find something that is attractive to it. And I'm hopeful that we will get it. So it's frustrating to have a rat inside your predator-proof fence that we can't get, but it's not for lack of trying. Cat trapping. So I described the cat trapping methods. This graph shows the trap nights for 2025. The terms of the HCP prescribe 300 trap nights per month throughout the year, and we met that in most months. In January of last year, we did not meet it because of bad weather that just made it difficult to access, especially the Alakai Swamp Trail. And you can see the number of trap nights there was lower than usual. And in June, we had vehicle issues. So our vehicle was down for a little while. We had to get that repaired, and it was difficult to schedule all the trapping that we needed. So we missed it in 2 months, and that's happened in other years too. But most of the time, we meet that 300 trap nights per month target. And here you can see in each year, it's been roughly similar. There's been some variation, and in general, when we've not been able to meet the trap night goal, it's because of weather or vehicle issues, or just other access issues, the road being worked on and not passable, things like that. And let's see, trapping results. So these are the two trap lines sorry, this is rats and cats in 2025. Number of rats is really variable, probably reflecting mostly their breeding season and dispersal of males and young animals. Feral cats just seems to be kind of random. We don't catch a lot. The numbers often kind of peak in the spring and summer, but not always. So cat numbers are variable. And these are the good nature captures. These are rats, and we're mostly trapping rats so that they don't take the bait out of our cat traps. If we didn't do that, we mostly just have empty traps that don't catch cats very often. And again, the number of rat captures is really variable. Cats and rodents trapped by year. Again, variation among years, and I think this is just random. Last year we caught 9 cats. The year before that was 11. The high was in 2023 of 13. This last year we caught the most rodents ever, but as you can see, it's just really variable. And we think this is just stochastic fluctuations among years and random variations. That was really all I had. Those are all the results. If you guys have more, or if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them now.
Thank you. I have a question for the HCP team, for the DOFAW HCP team. So my understanding of this project is it's mitigation for the KSHCP. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Generally, I think it would be really helpful to have this presentation in future years on the same day as we have the KSHCP conversations, because again, at the end of the day, what our job is to review the plus and minus associated with the HCPs on an annual basis. And so if this is meant to be the plus, and understanding that, am I understanding, Eric, obviously you guys are doing a ton of work to get it there, but there's no plus yet, correct? It's not producing chicks yet?
No, it's not producing
Right.
chicks yet. And that, there is a table that talks about the various milestones.
Yeah.
And we have met most of those milestones, but one of them that we have not met is actually having reproduction. So no, we're not there yet.
Okay, and again, not a criticism of the project or anything, just as far as our role, I guess I'm trying to ask the DOFA office, the HCP office, what do you need from us today?
Well, this project was, we were trying to make sure we can get it in the earlier meeting associated with the KSHCP. But I think things weren't ready yet. So definitely wanted to get it in front of you guys so you can see what is occurring at the site. And I mean, 1 to 3 years, birds are usually just trying to explore this area. 3 to 7, they start doing more regular visits. And then after that, you're going to start seeing, colony developing and stuff. So I think we're still in that middle phase of watching visitation. But I think this is being presented to you guys so you can kind of see the work that's occurring right now.
Okay.
And reporting on it. So
that makes sense. Can you remind me, it's been a little while since I read the full KSHCP, although I reviewed it on the days that we looked it over. Is the delay in the plus accounted for in the mitigation plan? Because the deaths are occurring now and have been occurring. And then essentially there's a lag in not only the production at the site that provides the mitigation, but then the birds take 5 to 7 years to reach maturity. So there's kind of a 14-year lag in making up for the losses. Is that kind of accounted for in the HCP?
Well, yeah, I mean, from my knowledge, there's additional mitigation happening. Money going to SOS. There's all these hotels doing these incentive programs for finding birds and stuff like that. So it's there's a combination of mitigation suites, I guess. This is one of them.
Yeah, totally. But this is the only one that actually produces new birds to make up for the losses, correct? The other ones are all either rescue or, rescue. Find them before they die and take care of them before they die, right?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I see here is, there could have been a site that we could have gleaned that may be more productive, and maybe we'd be seeing the pluses a little bit sooner. So I'm not familiar with this site in particular, to tell you the truth, but maybe there could have been a little bit more exploratory into exploring to find other sites that are a little bit more productive or could be productive.
Jason, am I remembering this correctly? And maybe Eric, you remember, wasn't the original site that was selected, there was a big landslide and they had to change the location of this mitigation site due to the circumstances surrounding that original choice. Is that correct?
Yeah, Lisa, that's exactly right. So, not long before the work was actually supposed to start, there was a huge landslide that wiped out like more than half of the originally chosen site. And to be honest, that site was always too steep. We were never going to be able to build a fence there. And the landslide wiped out about half of it, and they were kind of under the gun to choose another site quickly. And they did, and I think that the site they chose is fine. Like Jason said, maybe there were better sites out there. We didn't know of any at the time. Hindsight is always 20/20. And maybe a different site could have been chosen, but there was not one that was available and known about at the time. And in terms of the plus, yes, the other aspects of the HCP are designed to reduce take and care for birds that are taken and give them the best chance at survival. But it's this aspect, the Kamehameha preserve, that's the only one that actually would put birds back into the system. But this is not a fast process. It's restoring a seabird colony always takes years, and turns out with Hawaiian petrels and newel shearwaters, it takes longer than with some other species. We didn't when this started, we didn't have great information about how long that might take. No one had really tried very much. We know more about it now, and we realize now that it's a longer process than even we had realized before.
Yeah.
So I know it's disappointing to not have more birds breeding yet. I think we will get there, and I know that there have been faster results achieved elsewhere. But I think that at those sites, there may have been birds actually already present at the site, so they had a head start. I think we will get there. I certainly wish it was going a little faster. There are some things we can try to do to try to make the site more attractive. We've talked about adding things to the nest boxes that makes it seem like they've been used, like bird feathers or bird guano. But that is not going to attract them from elsewhere and call out. That's going to encourage them to stay once they're already at the site. The big trick is to get them to visit in the first place, and that is almost exclusively because of the sound system. They hear the sounds from far away. You know, if we put feathers or guano in the nest box, they're not going to detect that while they're flying, you know, along Kauaʻi. So there are things we can do, but first we have to get them there, and that's what we're trying. The sound system has worked, you know, like 99% of the time. There's been a couple cases where it stopped functioning, but we always repair those quickly, and in general, it has been working. So I know it seems slow, but this is not a fast process, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry, Eric. I want to be abundantly clear that I didn't mean my question as a criticism of this project. I think more for the committee's consideration in the context of the overall, you know, thing of what we're supposed to do. It highlights how important the minimization is at this stage, and that this is coming up in the KIUC conversations as well. It's just really hard to make up for these deaths once they occur. And so we have to be hammering on the minimization. And so that's more my point, why I was directing at the HCP and DOFAW office and not at the project. This is not a criticism of the project, but just highlighting how important that minimization is when we're talking with the permittees, with the licensees. It's really critical that they're looking for as many ways as possible to get that number of fallout down, because it's hard to make up for it. So that was my point here. Sorry, it took a little longer to make than I intended, but it really was just a commentary that highlighting where we're at and overall what our goals are and why it matters. This is very good learning, and I appreciate you sharing in depth.
Yep. All good. No offense taken. I know it's slow, and people often ask about this. I'm like, it takes time. Got to be patient. I wish it was faster. You know, the sooner you start, the sooner you can get results. So that's where we are.
Eric, I have one question. On one of your tables, you showed where maybe there was, what was it? There was just a change in numbers of birds maybe visiting the area or something. Can you refresh my memory of that table where the numbers were kind of high and then all of a sudden they were a lot lower? What was that?
Yeah, those were data from our nocturnal auditory surveys. So we're up there at night, mostly listening. Occasionally you see birds, but mostly you're just hearing them. And especially for newel shearwaters, the numbers were higher during the first couple of years of the project and have been lower in the last 2 years.
So
there's been no change in our protocols. There has been some turnover in staff, but I have confidence that our current staff are doing a good job. So there are fewer, and for band rumps, the last 2 years we've detected 0. So that's a little disappointing. We don't know the cause of that. Some of it, like I said, is sampling error. You might go up there, on a different night than we were there, and you might hear a band rump, and we didn't hear one during the actual surveys.
Did you guys have speakers out the whole time, or did you put them out like a couple of years down the road?
No, these surveys are done right in the vicinity of where the speakers are. We turn the sound system off during the surveys, so we're not confused by hearing, the recorded songs instead of the real birds. So we turn the system off during the surveys, but the surveys are done right where the social attraction is happening.
Yeah, what I meant was the social attraction activities, did that start right when the fence got built, and then you guys had speakers out there playing bird songs? Was that happening the whole time, or did that come in like a year down the road, you started doing the social attraction aspect?
No, the social attraction has been ongoing Not since the fence was completed, because we wanted to make sure that there were no predators in it first before we started attracting birds there. So immediately after we were confident there were no predators, we started the social attraction, and it's been ongoing every year since then.
I'm just kind of fishing to kind of figure out, why there is that dip, that's all.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that.
Eric, are the calls for all three species the sound system?
No,
Or
there are
just
calls.
mules?
It's mules and Hawaiian petrel.
Okay.
So
Has it been both? Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Has it been both the entire time? Both mules and okay.
It's been both the entire time, and the recordings we got from David Kuhn, he made them on Kauaʻi, so they're the local. If there's a song dialect, it's the one that we have.
I'm just curious, Eric, about interpreting this also. If we saw similar trends for bat acoustics or something, I know that folks are kind of implying with an increase in call rates or increase in detection rates that there are more bats around. Is this an interpretation that there's just less birds around? Is the population declining and that's why we're getting a lower call rate, or is that not an appropriate interpretation?
That's always hard to say. When you do these auditory surveys and you're not seeing the number of birds, and this is true of song meters too. It could be the same birds flying past over and over and over, and it seems like a lot, but there's actually only one. Or it could be many birds going past just once. We don't know. In general, I'm sure there's a positive correlation between number of calls and number of birds. There are some systems in which we've actually demonstrated how strong the relationship is, but it's not easy to get that type of information. So, in general, I think fewer calls probably does reflect fewer birds, but there's definitely some error associated with that, and it's hard to say how closely those are tied.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the things on the KRUC side that we've been a little bit concerned about is that it's taking a long time, right, to get a permit in place, and you've got a lot of impact happening. And all the population models show that line going down before it comes up, right? So that decrease in calls would be consistent with the population models showing that you're going to get a decrease in the population for a while before it starts coming up, responding to all the mitigation efforts. So, yeah.
I agree. That is certainly one interpretation that would make sense.
Are there other social attraction sites close to this one in particular that we can, glean off the information that's coming from them to kind of see the difference between the different sites?
There are. I know that ARC has a social attraction site. I don't have access to their data, and I don't know, what it looks like. So there are data out there that this could be compared with. But like I said before, I think that there's a chance that site actually had birds present at the beginning. So they're maybe not directly comparable, but it might still be instructive to do so.
I have two biology questions, Eric. First is as we head into a super El Nino, do you think this is going to affect production of fledglings?
It certainly could. These strong El Nino conditions can have very severe impacts on a number of seabirds. For newel shearwaters, I don't think we know very well what that's going to be because there's not good data yet on where they forage. So we don't know exactly where they're going. We don't know how the ocean is changing where they're going to forage. There's some information. For some species that forage locally, like wedge-tailed shearwaters and red-tailed tropic birds, El Nino is bad. It reduces the prey that they prefer. nearer to the island, so they have to go farther, and it makes their job harder. For mules, I'm not sure we know that yet. It certainly could affect them, but I don't think we know very well yet how seriously or how badly.
Then, second question, we have quite a few social attraction sites within what feels like is a small spatial area. Do you as a biologist have any concern with there being multiple social attraction sites within the same area that you're working?
I do. You know, there's the birds that you attract in this way. These are primarily young birds. They're what we call pre-breeders. You know, they're the teenagers, so they haven't decided yet where they're going to nest. Most of them will go back to where they fledged from to nest. A few may not, and these are the ones that you can attract to bring to a new site. But there's a limited pool of these birds, and if you have more than one site trying to attract them at the same time, you may be splitting them up. Or, you know, if one site is more attractive, it may get, you know, the lion's share. So, yeah, you know, I don't think there's a large pool of pre-breeders that can be attracted. And then most of them will not be attracted. They'll go back to where they fledged from themselves. So there is potential for competition among social attraction sites. And this is not just my opinion. You know, in New Zealand, they've actually have a lot more data on this, and they recommend that social attraction sites not be located closer than 25 kilometers from each other. But that's in New Zealand, where the islands are much bigger. You know, if we use that rule here, we wouldn't have much left. I mean, that'd be most of Kauaʻi. So I think there's certainly some latitude there. But I don't think it's wise to put too many social attraction sites too close to each other, because they will compete with each other.
Thank you for that.
So, it's noted in the KSHCP section 4.2.4 that actually accounts for the delay in mitigation. And it does mention that the actual control of cats and barn owl control in Kalalau Valley is providing some kind of benefit. It's anticipating beneficial effects to mules in Kalalau Valley. So if, you know, we have questions, or DOFAW or the agencies can also refer to that specific section in trying to account for this delay in mitigation benefits.
Thank you, Chelsea. We're trying to get up to speed on a couple of these projects ourselves, so.
No worries.
I don't know if we have any recommendations for the project or to staff at the moment. And if there are, we can record them now.
I think I would just request that next year, if you can just put a couple of highlights on slides, it is much easier to review. We're like back to back 2 days. What is it, a total of 10 or 11 or something? And so, you know, while you reference that we've all read this, yes, but it's really helpful to have just a brief amount of text on the screen, because it's a lot. This is the end of 2 long days. So it'd be helpful to have it in presentation format.
We can work with you, Eric, to assist with that if needed.
Yeah, this is directed at the HCP DOFAW staff. I know in the past for the permittees that are reporting, we've had a set type of slides that we're looking for. And then I know today we've seen safe harbor agreements. I don't know if we have kind of set slides for them. What they presented seemed really appropriate. And then the Nēnē one and this one are both mitigation projects. So there would be, I would assume, a different type of slide, kind of standardized slide deck that we would expect to see from them as far as what are the things we need to know and assess. And the rest is great to have in an extra slide section in case we ask questions. They can, oh yeah, well, we've been doing this and this, they can have those things present, but really, for the sake of our committee, there's kind of a minimal set of stuff that we need to see from each one of these. I don't know if the rest of the committee agrees or disagrees, but that would be my suggestion.
I would agree with that. It would be super helpful. Like, just like we were talking yesterday, it would be really helpful to have, you know, in the landscape of the wind towers, like where is the lethal take happening, the gender of the bats, for example. So I think that would be helpful to have these kind of standardized requests for presentations.
Yeah, not a problem. I think every ESRC meeting over the last year, we're getting closer and closer to those things. And so we're learning ourselves how to better present things to you guys, and you know, so we can, you know, streamline the process, make decisions and move on and not spend 20-25 hours in meetings. So I totally agree, and you know, we'll keep working on that.
If there's no more questions for me, I actually need to go.
Okay, I think we're good, Eric. Thank you very much for being here today, and we'll continue on, but we will talk soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Can you share? Oh, oh yeah, you're sharing here.
Yeah, so Jason, I think just, yes, letting, you know, alerting Eric to the fact that next year we would expect a couple of slides in place of showing the report, but yeah, for the staff, perfect. This is great. I personally don't have anything else. Other than, if at all possible, please have these presentations on the same day as the permittee is presenting. I would say the same of the Nēnē one, actually. It would be most useful to have that back to back.
Yeah, I agree. That would help.
Okay. But we'll do our best to try to make that happen for you guys, and maybe we can throw out some scenarios and see what you think.
As a quick note for ESRC committee members, we're gonna try to push for this to happen in February next year.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Just as a comment for that, as a standard thing, I always have a conference the first week of February, so knocks out the first week for me. Sorry, go ahead, Karen.
So you mean like the 2 days of annual review?
Yeah.
To have that in February.
Since I have several of you on the line, Melissa has a conference that first week of February. Are there any standing appointments or obligations for your time that you folks have in February, so that we're scheduling around those? If not, as usual, we'll send out.
Yes, so DOFAW step, do we have other meetings that in the coming months? Yes, I'm not aware of things that are upcoming. Do you guys have things on your radar?
Yeah, no, I'm very happy to give you a sneak peek of what we have coming up for you folks. So we have one meeting that will be a really nice informative meeting. We're going to learn more about those vertical turbines from Kaze Wind Power. Those folks will be giving a presentation, and then also we're going to work through how to determine if there is take or not for these turbines. So that'll be more of an educational presentation. seeking folks' insight, getting up to speed on this new technology. We'll have a couple other things that we'll include in that. I'll probably report out on some of the items that we weren't able to hit for the staff recommendations for this FY annual review, so let's get that tied up. We will have a meeting for the Puʻu and their Hawaiian petrol and Nēnē amendment. So that's upcoming. Additionally, we have the amendment for Hōkūala. And we have some other amendments that will be working their way through. Regarding KIUC, we have heard back from them. So we're working through some items. So at some point we do expect to see KIUC. Well, we don't have anything specific and we don't have any dates. But we'll definitely keep you folks posted on that. Definitely working on honoring the maximum of one ESRC meeting a month. We don't want to tax too much of your time. Understand you folks are busy people. But I think the next upcoming ESRC meeting will definitely be that educational one for positive power. So we can look at having that next month or the following month, so June or July.
Thanks.
Well, our next agenda item is 7, which is adjournment, and if you guys are ready to move forward to that one, we can. It's noon, almost 7. All right.
Just and this the other things we get to happen.
Oh no. Oh, okay. No public comments on the last presentation. So item 7. So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting, and do I have a second? Second. All in favor, keep your hands raised.
Aye.
So we will say the time is 12:08 and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Mahalo. Take care. Thank you.
Aloha.